Alright, so for this video I learned to play cribbage over the weekend, and I saw actually a cribbage board in this art store. It was all nice maple, well done, beautiful, but it was $240, and I thought that's ridiculous. I could make one for 30. So that's the plan. I would say by far the hardest part of this project has been designing the board itself. The curves are tricky, trying to get all of the holes in the right place are tricky. So what I did, took some cheap plywood and made a template. I actually made two templates. This is the one that worked. So I would highly, highly, highly recommend making a template before you actually use it on any wood that's decent. And you can see these curves here. So basically you want to figure out how big you want your pegs to be, and then thus the spacing of the holes. You want 5 holes and then a gap of, I did 1 hole and then 5 holes and gap of 1 hole. Cribbage board has 121 holes. I haven't done the last hole there. And then these curves are the tricky part. So what I did is did the angles with a 45, a 30, and a 60-degree angle, and then just marked out the holes along that. And with the diameter of the hole I'm using, which is hopefully 5/32, that should have plenty of room to work out. So this is obviously your tightest curve, the inside track on here, and that's going to be the hardest part to plan. That's going to determine the diameter of your holes. Is how you can fit that in this circle. If you can fit that, all the other arches will work out fine. Beyond that, what I'm going to do is drill through this template with the smallest drill bit I have. I'm not going to drill it with 5/8 inch holes, because that way if I ever want to build one with smaller holes, I can use the same template and I won't ruin the template with using too big a hole. So accuracy is key in these, trying to get the lines all nice and spaced even. The next step is to drill the holes and get ready, because it's a lot of holes. It's 240 something. So I have the drill press, and if these holes are not right in line, it's going to look really pretty noticeable, because the holes will be kind of the centerpiece of the work. So what I did is set up a fence against the drill press, and that way, as you'll slide your board down, you can see that this is all square with the edge of the fence. So as I drill a hole and then slide the board over, drill a hole, slide the board over, all those holes will end up right nice in a nice straight line all going down. And then I'll move the fence to do the next set, move the fence to do the next set. So here's the other reason to have the template. You see that I made a mistake and I actually drilled out those 2 holes, which was not part of my plan. It was part of my first plan, but once I revised it, I actually wanted some extra space here because I knew that this was the tightest corner. So I moved all the pegs back, but I forgot to do it on the first one. So had this been the real piece, that would have been a problem. But with the template, I just plug those holes with some cardboard so that I don't drill through them accidentally. So I've got my template just clamped on to the real board, and now we'll go through and drill those holes. So here's the board after the template's off and all the holes are drilled. Now the next phase is to drill them out again to be 1/8 inch holes. That's standard for cribbage board. Holes are all drilled out to 1/8 of an inch. One thing I will say is I was hoping I could cover up some of the inconsistencies with the larger holes, but it actually kind of just magnifies any inconsistencies. So I think if I were going to build another one, just be very careful initially with the template, and then afterwards, and just try to have a great fence and a really consistent moving, because any of these little rows that aren't straight really become pretty glaring. So that's just one tip. Be really focused throughout the whole procedure. It is a functional board at this point. I got some nails I just put in there to use as boards, but we're going to make it look a little bit nicer and clean it up some. So next step is to just sand. And then after I'm done sanding, we'll use 80, then 120, and then move up 400 and maybe even 600, depending on how smooth I want it. And then I just have to put in a bottom to carry the pegs, to store the pegs. I'm not quite sure if I'm going to do that with wood yet or a little metal thing, but either way I'll just route out a little section here. And then we should be pretty much close to finished. So that's pretty much it for this board. I've sanded it down to 320. I might go up to 400, but I'm not sure. The last thing I like to do when I'm finishing a project is just give it a little spritz of water, not too much. That gives you a good idea of what it will look like once the stain is on, or the urethane. And also what it does is wets those fibers in the wood, and so they kind of rise up. And then you give it a last quick sand, and you can knock all those loose fibers back down, and it gives you a really nice fine finish. So that's pretty much the end of it. I'll give you a picture of it when it's done.